Welcome to Perfectville, your first place podcast for your last place Miami Dolphins, part of the BLEAV Network, presented by Fanduel. I am Sam Marcoux, and this is the Phinstant reaction show to Week 1 against the Indianapolis Colts. You saw it, I saw it, we've read all about it. The fact that you're here listening and watching this content right now tells me that you are a glutton for punishment, sir or madam, citizen of Perfectville, because the Miami Dolphins lose in embarrassing fashion Week 1 to a team that has not won Week 1 since 2013. Well, that is over. 33-8. 33-8 in favor of the Colts. For anybody who watched the kickoff ready shows going into this week where I told you take Miami Dolphins plus 1.5, my bad. I'm sorry. I had no idea that Dolphins team was what was going to show up Week 1. The under hit, so you can thank me for that. And we'll talk about the line for Week 2 because it's just as laughable as I thought the line for Week 1 was as we go up against the New England Patriots. But this was not a good performance by anyone. And that means players, that means coaches, that means the front office. Everybody is on the hot seat. It's just an embarrassment, an absolute embarrassment. One of the worst performances I think I have seen this Miami Dolphins team have. And I'm not talking in the Mike McDaniel era. I'm talking ever, of all time. It was that bad. It was that bad. The Indianapolis Colts, with Daniel Jones as their quarterback, somehow managed to score on every single drive where they had the ball. Every single drive. I mean, that's ridiculous. That is 100% ridiculous. They made a rookie tight end like Tyler Warren, a guy who we could have picked, by the way, but we didn't. We went with Kenneth Grant instead. They made that rookie look like an all-pro in his very first game. Daniel Jones ran up and down the field. Daniel Jones converted fourth downs. Daniel Jones got touchdowns to Michael Pittman Jr. Daniel Jones looked like Peyton Manning in that Colts uniform yesterday. And the Miami Dolphins have no one to blame but themselves. They were unprepared. They were out of shape. They weren't listening to their assignments. They weren't doing what they were supposed to be doing, and the coaches aren't holding them accountable. They did not hold them accountable during the game. They certainly aren't holding them accountable up to leading the game, and they're not holding them accountable, I'm guessing, after the game. So, yeah, the Miami Dolphins are not going to beat the allegations. Not this week. Probably not this season. They look like a team that should be ranked towards the bottom, if not the bottom of the league in power rankings. They were awful. They scored 8 points. 8 points against an Indianapolis Colts defense that didn't really look that good. I mean, they didn't look that good. We were just that bad. And the 8 that they scored were like after 50 minutes of NFL gameplay. It was almost like a gimme touchdown. The Colts like, we're tired of beating your ass. Just go ahead. Just go ahead and score. I mean, my God. I'm trying to think of a more embarrassing performance over the last few years. And it's really, I mean, we've had some stinkers. Don't get me wrong. There's been some absolute dog shit games by the Miami Dolphins, but this was bad. I think Tua ended with a QB rating of 51. 2 interceptions and a bad fumble. Of course, who recovers the fumble? Xavier Howard. Of course, because why not? Why not give Xavier Howard, the guy who hasn't played in 2 years and who looks like god-awful dog shit when he did play last year with the Miami Dolphins, why not give him a bump? To make matters worse, Jonnu Smith scores a touchdown for the Pittsburgh Steelers, who beat the Jets. And how did they beat the Jets? Because Jalen Ramsey made a couple of amazing plays to end that game. So just rub insult into injury. The Miami Dolphins are bad, and I don't see how they're going to be good. Not this season. And I think Stephen Ross has to make some serious decisions early this season. If we lose to the Patriots Week 2, pitchforks are not only going to be out, they're going to be on fire and starting to be thrown at Mike McDaniel and Tua Tagovailoa and Chris Greer. Don't think you're off the hook either, because this is a nightmare. This is a mess. The Miami Dolphins showed up like that kid who rolled out of bed and is late to get to school, so they just go to school in their PJs and don't comb their hair. The Miami Dolphins had bedhead yesterday. They were there. Technically, they were there, but they were not present. They didn't learn anything. That is who the Miami Dolphins were yesterday against the Indianapolis Colts. A slacking middle school kid who can't get their shit together enough to even get dressed and go to school and look presentable. That's who the Miami Dolphins are. That is their franchise. That is their logo. That is the culture of the Miami Dolphins in the Mike McDaniel era. We're in year 4, and we have 12 men in the huddle on offense. Really? We're still doing that? We're in year 4, and we don't know when or how to challenge certain plays. That was a catch by Tyreek Hill. You don't challenge it? We're in year 4, and you're still burning timeouts because you can't get the damn play in on time. What's going on, Mike McDaniel? I mean, you look like you quiet quit on this team. That's what it looks like. It looks like the head coach said, I don't want to be here, but I like the money. So until Stephen Ross gets off his 85-year-old ass and fires me, I'm going to show up and do the bare minimum, collect a paycheck. Players, coaches, fans, be damned. That's what it looks like. And you know what? That's the culture that's permeating throughout the rest of the franchise. I mean, Tyreek Hill in the first quarter is yelling and screaming on the sidelines, and probably rightfully so, but you don't want to see it. I'm tired of Tyreek Hill. I'm tired of Tyreek Hill. I'm tired of him saying he's going to be better, that he's going to be a leader. They're showing him in the huddle before the game, firing up everybody. Everybody's tuned him out. He's got to go. The Miami Dolphins would be best to just trade Tyreek Hill if they could. That contract won't allow him to. But get a third rounder if you could. Call it the Chiefs. See if they need anything, if they would give us anything, and take it. I mean, Jalen Waddle, I've been hyping this guy up for 4 years, 5 years, whatever it's been. We pay the man. I say he's going to be wide receiver 1, and he very well could be by the end of this season. But he catches a ball, falls down. Ouchie. I hurt. I have a boo-boo again. The offensive line, James Daniels goes down after one play. And I told you on the preview show, if he doesn't play, it's going to change the outcome of this game, and it certainly did. Now, if he plays, are the Miami Dolphins winning? Probably not. But do they look a little more competent? Yes. But that's what you get when you sign and re-sign players like Austin Jackson and James Daniels, who are oft-injured, talented but oft-injured players, banking on them being the exact opposite of what they've shown you time and time again. That's what you get. This Miami Dolphins franchise gets exactly what they deserve. And shout out to Barry Jackson. He wrote a scathing rebuke of this entire franchise last night. And as he said, and I agree with him, there's plenty of blame to go around. Okay, this is not just Mike McDaniel. This is not just Tua Tagovailoa. This is not just Chris Greer. This is not just Stephen Ross. It is everyone. It is across the board, cradle to grave. It's a bad build. It's a bad build. They've squandered draft picks. They've made bad trades. They've made questionable signings, questionable non-signings. Andrew Van Ginkel says hello. They don't know what they're doing. They are incompetent. And it's sad. It's sad because this is a team, like most of you out there, if you're listening to this, this is a part of your identity as a sports fan. This is a team that you get up and you watch every Sunday. You consume content. You read blog posts. You read newspapers. You listen to the radio. You watch the highlights on the NFL Network, although there weren't many highlights for the Miami Dolphins this week, but you understand what I'm saying. The defense didn't look good. That front seven, that vaunted front seven, that rebuilt front seven that I was touting, that everyone was touting, barely showed up. And what happened? That meant that bad defensive backfield got exposed. Absolutely got exposed. Jason Marshall Jr. exposed. Storm Duck exposed. Mika Fitzpatrick, okay, but he can't do it by himself. He may have to because of all the injuries, but he can't. So something's got to change. And I think it means getting rid of some players. And I think it means getting rid of them early. If Mike McDaniel wants to save his job, if he has any way of saving his job, same with Chris Greer, they got to send a message, and they got to send it now. Bradley Chubb said after the game that people on defense, there was nothing that the Colts were doing that were surprising them. But people on defense were going into business for themselves. They weren't doing what they were supposed to do within the scheme. They tried to create on their own. Really? We're in week 1. We're in week 1, and you guys aren't disciplined at all. You don't have any sort of discipline to play within a system that Anthony Weaver's put out there. Furthermore, Anthony Weaver, what are you doing? You're supposed to be the heir apparent. You're the guy that everyone says should be the head coach of this team if Mike McDaniel were to go away on an interim basis. You didn't give yourself any shot at that, given what happened and what has come out since then. Bradley Chubb, captain of this team, starting to act like it. I'll give him credit for that. But he's got to do something. He went out publicly and called out the team. He's got to go privately to those players or player and call them out. I hope that's happening. Because if it's not, then don't expect anything to change. There are no consequences. I mean, Tua Tagovailoa gets up there and has the balls to question, of all people, Omar Kelly, who I'm not a fan of, but asked a very valid question about why does Tua seem to turn the ball over in bunches, interceptions, fumbles, interceptions. And what does Tua say? Well, that's a wild comment. No, it isn't. What's wild is that Chris Greer and Stephen Ross and Mike McDaniel went to bat for you and gave you a contract of close to $250 million for you to go out there and have a QB passer rating of 51 and turn the ball over multiple times, which leads to points directly for the Indianapolis Colts. That's what's wild. So I think I'm done with Tua Tagovailoa. I think the book's been written. This is not a guy that's going to take you to the Super Bowl. This is not a guy that's going to lead this offense. He's not going to put them on their back and say, you know what? We have a little bit of adversity in front of us. Don't worry about it. Let's go take care of business. Look what Josh Allen did to the Baltimore Ravens with 4 minutes left in the game. They were down by 15 points, 2 scores plus a 2-point conversion. And he led them to 2 touchdown drives, and he got him in position for a game-winning field goal. And wouldn't you know it, the Miami Dolphins, the only reprieve that they were going to have is that everyone in the AFC East lost, so at least they're 0-1 and everything's back to normal. No. The Bills pulled it out. The Bills win. They go 1-0. While the Miami Dolphins are already looking up at the asshole of the Buffalo Bills, and it's going to get further and further away. Week 3, that's going to be a nightmare. That's going to be a nightmare for the Miami Dolphins. Or I'm not even looking at week 3. We got to get to week 2. You know, I look on Fanduel, and it looks like the Miami Dolphins are favored by 1.5, the same 1.5 spread that the Colts are favored by. And I look at that, just like I looked at that game, I'm going, how? Yeah, granted, the Patriots aren't good, but you know who's bad? The Dolphins. So how are the Dolphins favored in this game? Because they're at home? Is that it? I don't know, man. I just don't see this going Miami Dolphins' way. This is going to be a bad season. It's going to be a long season. It's going to be a lot of therapy between you and I, the citizens of Perfectville, and me talking about it. I hope I'm wrong. I hope something changes. I just don't see it. I just don't see it. Here's part of the Phinstant reaction show. This looks like we're going to have to reset our mind, recalibrate what we think to be true for the Miami Dolphins in 2025. What is the ceiling? I don't know. I don't know that there is a ceiling. I mean, they might be planning for Manning. It might be a march for Arch for the Miami Dolphins. They may have to hit that reset button, get rid of the coach, get rid of the GM, get rid of the quarterback, get rid of those high-priced diva wide receivers, and start over. I mean, that's the only way you're truly going to change a culture, is to start completely over. And that may mean Stephen Ross stepping away from this team. I mean, he's barely involved as it is right now, so maybe that would be a good thing. But the Miami Dolphins need a lot of help. And it ain't going to come in 6 days before week 2 against the New England Patriots. It's just not. Coming up on the show this week, we got Christopher Price from the Boston Globe, co-host of the BLEAV in Patriots podcast here on the BLEAV Network. Dudley Durong is going to join us. He saw what we saw. He's got his opinions. He's got his reactions. We'll talk about it. And we'll try to lick our wounds. We'll try to get back up and running. We'll try to see if there's any sort of positive outcome for the Miami Dolphins week 2 against the New England Patriots. It is the home opener. So there's that. Miami typically does pretty well at home in September. Tua typically does pretty well against the Patriots. But what does it matter? Does it matter if we beat the Patriots? Go 1-1, and then on a short week, go up to Buffalo against that monster Buffalo Bills team? I don't know. I just don't know that. I can't see it. I'm having a hard time seeing it. Having a hard time focusing. Much like the Miami Dolphins on the field yesterday against the Colts, I have a hard time seeing success. I mean, they were out of shape. I mean, they were fat. They were out of shape. They were breathing hard, and they shouldn't be. There's no reason to be that unprepared. That goes back to coaching. That goes back to personal responsibility of the players. That goes back to the front office and the culture that they have set forth. It's bad. It's really, really bad. Devon Achane looked good. I'd like to see them get the ball to Devon Achane a little bit more. I don't know how they're going to do that because Mike McDaniel just absolutely refuses to embrace a run game, even though he's supposed to be this run game guru. Jalen Waddle gets hurt if the wind blows in the wrong direction. I forgot about that part of his game as much as I've been hyping him up. So all of a sudden, these talented players that the Miami Dolphins have on offense don't look so talented anymore. Not if you're not going to use them the right way. Not if they're on the sidelines, hurt, sucking wind, bitching. Miami Dolphins, they got some work to do. And I don't know it's going to get done this season without a full-blown enema. We got to stick the tube right into the blowhole and just flush everything out. And they deserve all the criticism. They're going to bristle. They're going to get mad that you're talking about them. But you know what? They brought this on themselves. They're very flippant with the media, very flippant with the fans. You guys care more than we do. You guys are more concerned than we do. You know what? We have reason to be. That's a scary spot to be when fans like myself seemingly have a better grasp on reality of what this team is and is not than the front office, the head coach, and the players combined. It's a scary thought. Maybe that's the answer. Maybe we crowdsource this. Maybe we somehow put it to a vote every single week, every play, and we start calling plays based on the violent majority of the Miami Dolphins fan base. I wonder how that would work. So there you have it. Miami Dolphins lose 33-8 to the Indianapolis Colts. Daniel Jones goes off. Record-setting day for Daniel Jones and the Indianapolis Colts. They get off the schneid. Congrats to their fan base. They get to celebrate a win week 1 for the first time since 2013. Ain't mad at that. Good for you. But the Miami Dolphins and the fan base have to reset. They have to rethink what success looks like right now. And they better start holding themselves accountable, actually accountable, not just walking out there going, it starts with me. We got to look in the mirror. That mirror is broken. It is a funhouse mirror. Stop looking in the mirror. Start looking at the playbook. Start looking at film. Start making sure you have your timing down with your wide receiver so when you throw the ball, it doesn't go to the other team. Tua Tagovailoa. I'm sick of looking in the mirror because it's telling you lies. You need to look out a window and figure out how you're going to leave. What's your means of egress here? Because before too long, it's looking like the Miami Dolphins are going to have, yet again, another regime change, yet again, another reset, yet again, another rebuild. And they're not going to have those draft picks like they did for this rebuild. They're not going to have the cap flexibility like they did for this rebuild. They're going to have to start by eating a lot of cap, being bad for a year or two, and trying to build the trenches in the mind's eye of the next regime. Oof, it's going to be brutal. It's going to be brutal. They're reaping what they sow. This is what they get. This is what they deserve. It's not what we deserve. It's not what the fan base deserves. Fan base deserves a winner. Fan base deserves some consistency out of their football team that they have been supporting ever since they became a thing. This is too bad. This is too bad because this had a lot of promise, had a lot of hope 4 years ago, getting everybody, getting this team together, getting these coaches, getting these players. And just like that, like a Snoop Dogg concert, up in smoke. But we'll get through it. This isn't our first rodeo. It's not our second rodeo. We have scars. We have calluses. It's just another loss. So we'll see what the Miami Dolphins can do. How do they respond? How do they react? How do they get themselves ready for week 2 against the New England Patriots, home opener? A fan base that's unsettled, a fan base that's tepid at best. So I don't know that they're going to really have a home field advantage. So how does Mike McDaniel deal with that? How does Anthony Weaver get ready? How does Tua Tagovailoa recover? Are they going to have their full complement of players on offense? Is the defense going to actually do their assignment, or are they going to go into business for themselves yet again? These are questions that need to be answered. We'll try to answer them throughout the week and see what the results are on Sunday against the New England Patriots. And thank you for joining us here in the town of Perfectville. Remember, nobody's perfect except us, you, me. So on behalf of myself, Sam Marcoux, the entire BLEAV Network presented by Fanduel, the only thing left to say right now on the Phinstant Reaction Show is goodbye from Perfectville. Later.